A ride across the Southern Connector is fairly cheap by most standards.
It's a pleasant drive.
At $1.50 a toll, you can drive the length of the 16-mile connector for a mere 9 cents a mile.
And it passes by very quickly.
Or you can simply not pay.
It's a big problem. If one doesn't pay, it's a big problem.
Tim Brett of the Southern 2000 Association says a few drivers are causing most of the problems.
Most of them live in the area. Most of them use the road frequently. Most of them think that they can get away with it.
Catching toll booth runners is not the problem. Cameras photograph their license plates no matter how fast they're driving or what time of day it is. These are very high-resolution cameras. You can see a lot.
Oh, absolutely. We have the ability to change the shading, light and darken, and actually expand that image to read the plates.
The problem is collecting what's owed, even with evidence connecting them to the crime. It's as though people have figured out there is nothing the Southern Connector can do to force them to pay.
Oh, certainly you can't force anybody, but believe me, we will try to make their lives as miserable as possible until they finally do pay up.
WYFF News 4 Investigates has learned the connector is owed nearly $250,000 in tolls from these deadbeat drivers. Like this couple from Easley, accused of running the toll booth 110 times, racking up fines of $3,600. We tried to track them down, but a neighbor told us they no longer live here, and court records show their fine was never paid. How much money would you say you've spent in legal fees chasing these people down?
That's hard to say.
Is it a safe bet you've spent a lot of money on this?
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't want to just say a lot of money without a clear definition of what that is, but certainly, let's face it, attorneys aren't cheap these days.
We will start with civil case number 2013.
Officials use every legal remedy available to collect what's owed.
To determine the name and address of the registered owner of that vehicle.
But even in court, where the Southern Connector wins 100% of the time,
We would enter that exhibit into evidence.
the drivers who are charged don't bother to show up because toll violations are just a misdemeanor.
The court rules in favor of the plaintiff.
The worst that can happen is their vehicle registrations may be suspended if they refuse to pay.
So if the person tries to get new license tags, sell the car, something like that, they can't do it because the registration has been suspended.
But even after having his registration suspended, a local landscaper who officials say ran the toll booth more than 200 times still hasn't paid the more than $5,000 he owes, according to court records. Some do pay. We went to the home of a man who had more than 400 violations. He wasn't home, but his parents told us the case had been settled, and in fact, court records show he did pay what he owed. But what about all those violations?
Okay, I just wanted to see if he would explain what happened there, how that happened. I mean, one or two, that's one thing.
Now the connector is exploring the idea of hiring a debt collector to recover what's owed.
So you'll do whatever it takes, really, to get the money.
That's correct.
Even though some drivers have figured out all they have to do is keep moving.